speed of sound or upwards. There are several things that become absolutely essential. One is that you require a very high degree of sweepback on the wing leading edges. Otherwise, you start getting into severe problems of drag and aerodynamic heating. As you go into this very slender shape, you still need to have a lot of volume in that shape for fuel, for propulsion, for crew. And the best way to provide that is to blend the wing and the body together. You get a very characteristic, highly blended triangular shape, which is, in plan view, identical to what Chris saw.
Photographic evidence came from Amarillo, Texas, home to a sophisticated military signals monitoring post.
I think it was March 23rd, 1992. I was back here in my office when the house was shook by what sounded like a large sonic boom. I'd heard a lot of sonic boom before, so I know how they sound, but this one seemed to continue. It wasn't just a crack boom and left. It was a rather large shudder that you could feel in your chest, and the windows vibrated. And that's when I saw this very high-speed aircraft flying over the house at an incredible rate. I grabbed my camera, knowing it was something different, especially because of the way the contrail worked.
The Donuts on a Rope contrail is produced by no conventional aircraft. Its engine noise is also unique.
It's a deep, thrumming, regular, pulsing, booming noise. It's like somebody unzipping the sky. You feel it more in your chest than you hear it. It doesn't sound like a jet. It doesn't sound like a rocket. It's just very unique and an amazing sound.
The Donuts on a Rope contrail has been reported from around the world. This never-before-seen footage was taken by an amateur cameraman from a transatlantic passenger jet. It's very hard to hide an aircraft like the Aurora. The contrail and engine noise are the signature of a pulsed detonation engine, the kind of engine necessary to fly at hypersonic speeds. With a cruising speed of 5,300 miles per hour, Mach 8, operating in near orbit at an altitude of 50 to 80 miles, the Aurora could reach anywhere in the world in 3 hours.
Aurora is a continuing investigation which is not yet closed. Personally, I think that there's overwhelming evidence that there is a high-speed program out there.
Like the deep black projects that came before it, the Aurora's existence is still denied. However, anyone can fly alongside it on a computer game. The Aurora's main test base would be Dreamland, at Groom Lake, Area 51 in the Nevada nuclear test site. But something hidden even deeper in the deep black world is rumored to be flown at Area 51, captured alien spacecraft. Dreamland has become the focus of those who say that there is a government conspiracy to cover up alien contact. It could be the biggest story in history. From a distant mountain top, one man keeps a vigil over Dreamland.
I'm up here on Tikaboo Peak, 25 miles east of the base. It's an 8,000-foot peak. It's the last outpost of public oversight over this government facility. I come here just because I think it needs to be done. Someone has to watch what's going on out there. And there's a lot of adventure in it, too. Everybody loves a base that doesn't exist, and I'm no exception. It's like they put that base out here just so I can crack it. I want to know what's going on in there, but more importantly, I like the process of cracking a mystery. This is like a Sherlock Holmes mystery. What is going on out there? You have all sorts of clues, but how do you put them together? The base itself, it just sits there. It's like any other Air Force base. I see it like a Rorschach ink blot test. People come and see this ambiguous stimulus and they impress whatever they want on the stimulus. Some people see conspiracies. They say that the one world government is based out there. Some other people think all the missing children in the world have been taken here. Other people see only black programs. Others see spirits. They think that out there the aliens are communing in some way with our government, and you can send out your love and bring them into you. The stories are as varied as the people who come here.
These beliefs are based on the claims of one man.
There were 9 flying saucers or flying discs altogether.
Rachel, Nevada, population 101 and falling. Its inhabitants have seen many strange things flying over the mountains above Dreamland.
I believe that there are saucer-shaped craft here on Earth.
I definitely believe it was a saucer.
I've seen a lot of strange things out here.
It was just a series of lights.
Dancing lights.
And they came up close, and then they were gone in an instant.
Saucers or extraterrestrial craft could be visiting the Earth.
I definitely think aliens have had to have visited the Earth.
Some may be extraterrestrial from another planetary system around another star.
It was something from outer space.
I believe it's possible.
It could be within regions underneath the Earth that have been established as a base.
There's too much technology out here that can't be explained.
We might be dealing with an interdimensional phenomena.
I definitely think the government knows.
I don't think we're alone in the universe.
Beyond Groom Lake is Papoose Lake, Area S4, alleged home of a flying saucer base. Bob Lazar, jet car builder, former employee of the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the birthplace of the atomic bomb, and supposedly hired as an engineer on a top-secret project.
I was under the impression I was going to be working on an advanced propulsion system, which was right up my alley, and I was very excited about it. And I was led to believe it was going to be some sort of field propulsion system, which in fact it was, but I had no idea of the implications of what they were talking about.
Lazar says he was flown from Las Vegas to Groom Lake, put on a bus, and driven to Area S4, Papoose Lake.
We drove up, the hangar door was open, and there was a flying saucer. I got out, was led purposely through it, and I was told to keep my eyes forward and walk straight, and it was kind of a mental torture because there was a fantastically interesting thing here, but I was under the impression that this was something that we had developed. And in fact, I remember even laughing to myself that this answers all the ridiculous UFO sightings. We've been making these things all along, test flying them, and everyone's been thinking they're flying saucers from another planet. And I thought, wow, this is great. In fact, they even had a little American flag stuck on the side of it, which I thought was a nice touch.
Bob soon discovered that the saucer was of alien origin.
It was still some time later that I was actually let inside it, and it became extremely obvious that this was something we didn't make. Because only then, after seeing how small everything was inside, that it was obviously never made to hold a human. And they basically came clean with what we're doing is back engineering this because we want to find out how it was made. And that pretty much says it wasn't made here. The disc itself was in 3 levels. The upper level, which I never got to go on. The middle one where you enter, and then there's a lower one where the gravity amplifiers hang down and you can have access to the bottom part of the craft. It's a very eerie feeling to be in there. There are no obvious control panels or switches. The only thing sticking up out of the ground were 3 chairs, the reactor itself, and the actual gravity amplifiers. And underneath them were the other components to the propulsion system, but that's about all that was in there.
Bob Lazar has been investigated by a reporter at the local TV station.
What some have called the cosmic Watergate.
There had been stories about Dreamland floating around in Nevada for a number of years, little bits and pieces in the newspaper, references to secret programs, occasionally a reference to alien technology. There have been some of those same kind of references in ufological circles, people saying, there's a secret base in Nevada, you better check this kind of a thing out. It wasn't until about 1987 I started digging into some of these things. In 1989, I met Robert Lazar, and the story he told me was an incredible one by any standards. I thought that if, in fact, any of this stuff checks out, it may be the biggest story in history.
Does Lazar's story check out? Do any records of Lazar's past employment exist?
For myself and the TV station, the key to his credibility, the key to his story was always Los Alamos, because if he worked at Los Alamos, if he worked in classified projects, it is at least conceivable that he would have been brought to Nevada to work in other classified projects. As a test on his veracity, we wanted to go to Los Alamos and have him show us around. He said, I can get you in. Yeah, we'll believe this when we see it. So we were there on a weekend. Fewer people are in the lab, and Bob, in fact, did take us in. And it was like following him through this labyrinth of different labs and facilities, and he knew his way around like a rabbit in its own burrow. He knew where everything was, and that impressed me, because how would he know if he hadn't been there? Los Alamos was uncooperative from the first day. Years and years went by, and I still couldn't get any confirmation from them that Bob had ever worked there. It makes no sense. They'd have no records on someone who worked there just a few years before, but that's what they were telling me. Now, I had interviewed other people that worked with Bob there who say that he was an employee, he was a physicist, and he worked in classified projects. If that were the case, where are the records? Because to this day, we still can't find them. What this tells me is that someone has tried to wipe out Bob's background so that fewer people will give him any credibility.
Lazar's first few days at the secret base were spent reading briefing documents, whilst under guard. These made clear that the government possessed detailed knowledge of the aliens. It was clear that the spacecraft was not a recent acquisition.
It seemed like they had been working on it for at least a couple of years, but it could have been 20 for all I know. Once when I went in the hangar, all the bay doors were open all the way down, and you can see that there were other crafts in there, and they were all completely different. Now, I was told that all the power sources and propulsion systems were identical in them. As far as how many of them were operational, I only know the one that I worked on was operational. The rest of them, for all I know, could have been cardboard mock-ups, so I really can't even comment on them. One of the craft looked like it had been stood up on end and a projectile fired through it. So I would imagine some of these crafts were non-functional. There were 9 flying saucers or flying discs altogether.
George Knapp persuaded his TV station to put Bob Lazar through a polygraph test, a lie detector.
Did you knowingly lie when you said you had actually seen anti-gravity propulsion in operation?
No.
4 separate tests were performed by 2 different investigators. The results were inconclusive. Lazar passed 2 and failed 2. One of the investigators is still shaken by what he heard.
I was looking for all the little sign, the body language, if you will. There was tremendously positive eye contact. There was no fidgeting around, and he never deviated. We covered it several different ways. I asked the same question several different ways, and his answers were always the same. Hooking up, going through the test, then started the emotional roller coaster that I experienced that night.